Hello everybody, welcome to the Theory Music School. Hopefully you have watched my previous videos on secondary dominants, especially the video that focuses on labeling and analyzing secondary dominants, as this video will build on that to look at secondary dominants in a more expanded context. First, let us look at the very common descending fifths diatonic progression as seen here in the key of F major. Descending fifths refers to the relationship between chordal roots when progressing from a given chord down a fifth, or its inversion up a fourth, to the chordal root of the next chord. For example, the chordal root of the submediant chord, the sixth chord, is D, which is a perfect fifth above or a perfect fourth below the next chord, the 2 or supertonic chord, which has a chordal root of G. The descending fifth refers to the chordal root motion from D down to G, a fifth. In turn, the G chord is a perfect fifth above or perfect fourth below the chordal root of the next chord, which has a chordal root of C, and so on to the F chord. Remember the criteria for a dominant functioning chord, whether primary or secondary. It will likely be a major triad or a major minor seventh chord, plus the chordal root of the dominant functioning chord will be a perfect fifth above or a perfect fourth below the chordal root of the likely destination or resolution chord. Notice that the second criteria is just a slight rewording of the descending fifths definition given above. Now look at the C major triad in the example to the left. It satisfies both criteria already. It is a major triad and its chordal root C is a perfect fifth above or a perfect fourth below the next chord, the F chord. Also notice that both the D and G chords fulfill the second criteria already. They are part of a descending fifths progression. However, they don't satisfy the first criteria since they are not major triads or major minor seventh chords. In fact, they are minor triads. However, we can alter them very slightly just by raising the chordal third a half step to create a major triad, and in doing so, they will satisfy both criteria. Let us try to alter the G minor triad first to a major triad by raising the chordal third, the B flat to B natural. The G chord is no longer a diatonic, supertonic 2 chord, but is a chromatic chord, a secondary dominant, a 5 of 5. It is not a major 2 chord, as the Roman numeral for secondary dominants, as discussed in prior videos, do not equate to the scale degree that represents the chordal root. In this case, scale degree 2 is the chordal root, but it would be incorrect to label the chord as a major 2 chord. While prior videos on secondary dominants focused specifically on how to analyze them with the proper Roman numerals in detail, we will take a moment to review right now. First, determine the root of the secondary dominant, which in this case is G. Then determine the root which lies a perfect fifth below or perfect fourth above the root of the secondary dominant. The answer would be C. C is the root of what chord in the given key? The answer is 5. Therefore, the given chromatic G chord would be properly labeled 5 of 5. Let us return to our original diatonic descending fifths progression. While we altered the G minor triad in the previous example, we can also modify the D minor triad to transform it into a secondary dominant as well. As mentioned before, it already satisfies criteria 2. Its chordal root D lies a perfect fifth above or a perfect fourth below the chordal root of the next chord, G. If we raise the chordal third a half step from F to F sharp, the chord now satisfies the first criteria as well. It's a major triad and a dominant functioning chord. Its chordal root is D, A perfect fifth below or a perfect fourth above D is G. G is the root of the 2 chord in the key of F major. The secondary dominant is then properly labeled as 5 of 2. The left side of the page shows the 2 secondary dominant examples discussed thus far in this video. It is important to note that dominant functioning chords can appear in succession, as seen in example number 3 on the right side of the page. Notice that the 5 of 2 secondary dominant is still resolving to a chord whose root is a perfect fifth below or a perfect fourth above its own root. In other words, the D major secondary dominant is still resolving where we expect to a G chord. It's just not a G minor chord or a minor 2 supertonic chord as seen in example number 2. This fact, however, doesn't alter the labeling of the secondary dominant. It is still analyzed as 5 of 2, as the Roman numeral of the secondary dominant should likely reflect the anticipated chord of resolution, whether it actually resolves there or not. Now notice the voice leading as discussed in prior videos on secondary dominants. Leading tones of primary or secondary dominants tend to resolve up by step. The leading tone can also be thought of as the chordal third. Now the temporary leading tone or chordal third of the secondary dominant 5 of 2 chord is the F sharp in the soprano voice, and it's moving up by step as we would expect to G. The temporary leading tone or chordal third of the secondary dominant 5 of 5 chord is the B natural in the tenor voice, and it's also resolving up by step to C as we would expect. And the diatonic leading tone of the primary dominant is E, and it's resolving up by step to F in the alto voice. Next, notice how the available common tones are being kept in the same voice in these particular examples. And finally, the remaining 2 voices are moving in accordance with achieving a complete chord with a doubled chordal root, which can be expected since each triad is a root position chord. Thank you very much for watching this video on secondary dominants. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel.